Hello, Symposiast. I'm Dr. Angela Puca, Religious Studies PhD and University Lecturer, and this is your online resource for the academic study of magic, esotericism, paganism, shamanism, and all things occult. Today, it's going to be a long episode on Franz Bardon. So, the first recommendation is to grab a snack because I didn't realize that it would have become such a big episode, but I thought that I'd rather cover it in detail rather than just give you a quick summary. So I hope that you like that. And so grab a snack, grab a drink, and also please, if you can afford it, I would really appreciate it if you supported my work because the only way that I can keep this knowledge and information free for everybody and keep producing. Material and knowledge and information that is based on peer-reviewed academic scholarship, or like in this case, a scholarly analysis of primary sources, as we will see. I can only keep doing this work thanks to your support. So if you have the means and want to support me, please consider doing so by joining my Patreon community, my coffee. I have a PayPal, so you can send donations there. And that you find all the ways in the info box, in a pinned comment, in my bio, everywhere. So thank you so much for considering that. And also share my videos around. That's always something that really helps my project and the symposium grow. I really appreciate that. So today we are talking about Franz Bardon. So are you excited about that? And let's start then. So first of all, a little disclaimer because there isn't really much, if at all, academic scholarship on Franz Bardon. He's mentioned either secondarily or not at all. So if any of you is familiar with any academic peer-reviewed source that talks about Franz Bardon, please let me know because I couldn't really find any. So this episode is mostly based on primary sources because really there is a lack of scholarship on Franz Bardon and topics related to his form of esotericism. The complete bibliography will be listed in the description box of this video, and we will have a final slide for that as well. And I also have references mentioned on slides. In some cases, they are taken directly from the source. In other cases, the source mentioned has helped build background knowledge. So let's start. So Franz Bardon was a Czech occultist, magician, and author, widely regarded as one of the most influential figures in 20th century Western historicism. He was born on December the 1st, 1909, in Opava in Czechoslovakia, now part of the Czech Republic. Bardon grew up in a spiritually inclined environment. His father, Victor Bardon, was a practitioner of a form of Christian mysticism, which greatly influenced Bardon's early interest in spiritual and esoteric subjects. Bardon's early experiences in stage magic and spiritual practices laid the foundation for his later work in Hermeticism and practical occultism. By his early 20s, Bardon became a prominent figure in occult circles, reportedly engaging in the study and practice of alchemy, Kabbalah, and Hermetic magic. His methods focused on the disciplined methodological development of mental, astral, and physical faculties to align with universal laws, distinguishing his approach from other of his contemporaries. During World War II, Bardon was arrested by the Nazis. He was imprisoned in a concentration camp where he was allegedly subjected to severe interrogation and torture, but survived due to his spiritual strength and resilience. Following the war, Bardon continued his esoteric practices and writings, becoming a healer and teacher in his local community. Bardon died under unclear circumstances on July 10, 1958, in a Czech prison. Official records state that his death was due to pancreatitis, but there are speculations that he may have been targeted by the communist regime due to his continued involvement in esoteric and occult practices. Despite his relatively short life, Bardon left a significant legacy in the field of Western esotericism. Bardon is considered a seminal figure in the field of Western esotericism because of his practical and structured approach to magic. His three main works, Initiation into Hermetics, The Practice of Magical Evocation, and The Key of the True Quabbalah, form a comprehensive trilogy on the theory and practice of Hermetic magic. These texts provide a detailed step-by-step guide for those seeking spiritual growth and mastery over their inner and outer worlds. Now, let's cover the system of correspondences that we find in Bardon's magic because it's quite unique. It doesn't really reflect what other traditions have used or done. So, Franz Bardon's system of correspondences is a foundational aspect of his teaching on Hermetic magic. And of course, as I will clarify later, by Hermetic magic, it is still his own interpretation, just as with Kabbalah and all the other traditions that he mentioned. His framework centers around a simplified and universal set of correspondences that primarily focus on the elements, numbers, planets, and letters, rather than the more elaborate and symbol-laden systems found in other Western historic traditions, such as the Golden Dawn or Aleister Crowley's Thelema. For Bardon, these correspondences are practical tools that facilitate a direct alignment between the microcosm, the individual, and the macrocosm, the universe, enabling the practitioner to work harmoniously with natural and spiritual laws. Bardon's system of correspondences, particularly his color associations for the elements, draws on the Tattwa symbols from Hindu esoteric traditions, rather than following the color correspondences found in Western occult systems like the Golden Dawn. Tattwas are subtle energy principles in Hindu metaphysics, each associated with an element, a specific shape, and a particular color. Bardon adopts these correspondences into his Hermetic framework, thus reinterpreting them to fit his own system of magic, which emphasizes simplicity and direct experience. So the first one is fire, the Tejas Tattwa, which symbolizes willpower, energy, and dynamic force. In Bardon's system, fire is associated with the sense of sight, the head, and the color red, which aligns with the Tattwa symbol for Tejas, a red equilateral triangle. These color and shape are meant to convey the qualities of activity, passion, and transformative power. In contrast, the Golden Dawn system uses a broader range of colors, such as scarlet or orange for fire, reflecting its various magical and spiritual aspects. Then we have water, Apas Tattwa, which represents emotions, intuition, and adaptability. Bardon links water to the sense of taste, the abdomen, and the color silver or white, matching the Tattwa symbol for Apas, which is depicted as a silver crescent. This color represents purity, reflection, and the fluid, adaptable nature of water. The Golden Dawn, on the other hand, often associates water with colors like blue or blue-green, depending on specific ritual context. Then we have air, or Vayu Tattwa. This stands for intellect, communication, and balance. Bardon connects air with the sense of touch, the chest, and the color blue, corresponding to the Vayu Tattwa symbol, a blue circle. The color blue signifies clarity, lightness, and the expansive nature of air. In the Golden Dawn system, air is generally linked to yellow, but may also be associated with other shades like sky blue or lavender, depending on astrological or elemental influences. Then we have earth, which is Prithivi Tattwa. This embodies stability, materiality, and endurance. Bardon associates earth with the sense of smell, the legs and feet, and the color yellow, based on the Tattwa symbol of Prithivi, which is a yellow square. The color yellow is meant to convey solidity, grounding, and the nurturing qualities of earth. This is a significant divergence from the Golden Dawn's correspondences, which might use colors such as black, green, or russet to represent different aspects of the earth element. Bardon's adoption of the Tattwa colors into his system reflects his broader use of the universal law of analogy, which connects the practitioner's internal state, the microcosm, to the external universe, macrocosm. By aligning elemental practices with the Tattwa symbols and their color correspondences, Bardon creates a simplified yet profoundly symbolic framework that practitioners can use to engage directly with elemental forces through meditation and visualization. These contrast with the Golden Dawn's approach, which integrates a much broader set of correspondences, including astrological signs, planetary influences, and a wide array of symbolic imagery drawn from various cultural and mystical traditions. The Golden Dawn's method involves a complex symbolic system that requires extensive memorization and ritual use, while Bardon's system prioritizes direct experience and practical application. By choosing the Tattwa correspondences, Bardon also demonstrates his tendency to reinterpret and synthesize various esoteric traditions into a coherent framework that supports his specific goals for magical and spiritual practice. This makes his system both accessible and universal, emphasizing simplicity over the complexity and elaborate symbolic associations typical of other Western magical traditions. While Bardon frequently references Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and other esoteric traditions, his use of these terms does not always align with their historical or traditional meanings. Instead, Bardon re-elaborates these traditions, creating his own synthesis that diverges from established interpretations. For example, Hermeticism, traditionally rooted in the writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, emphasizes the integration of spiritual and material realities, the pursuit of divine knowledge, and the practice of alchemy, astrology, and theurgy. Bardon reinterprets Hermeticism in a more practical and universal manner, focusing on cultivation of elemental harmony within the individual rather than on the complex symbolic systems often associated with the Hermetic tradition. Similarly, Bardon's take on the Kabbalah, which he refers to as Kabbalah with a different spelling, the one that you see on screen, with an added U. We already know that there's a difference between Kabbalah spelled as with a Q and Kabbalah spelled with a K, because and even with a C, because with the K is Jewish Kabbalah, with the Q is Hermetic Kabbalah, and with the C is Christian Kabbalah. But in this case, we have the Q, which is the Hermetic one, with an added U. So he has his own interpretation of Kabbalah. Now let's look at the differences from the Golden Dawn and other systems. So one of the characteristics of Bardon's system is that it significantly simplifies compared to Golden Dawn's system, which integrates a highly detailed and complex web of correspondences, including the Sephiroth of the Kabbalistic tree of life, astrological signs, planetary attributions, tarot cards, and angelic hierarchies. The Golden Dawn's system draws heavily from Judaic, Egyptian, Christian, and Masonic symbols, creating a rich but intricate symbolic relationships. Bardon, however, distills these traditions down to their most universal elements, or what he deemed to be as such, of course, such as the four classical elements and their qualities, numbers, and the fundamental properties of sound. His goal is to provide a system that can be directly applied by practitioners from any background, without needing to study the intricate details and symbolic associations characteristic of the Golden Dawn. So, Bardon's system emphasizes experiential learning over theoretical study. In initiation into Hermetics, practitioners are encouraged to engage directly with the elements, feeling and understanding their qualities within their own bodies and minds, rather than relying solely on symbolic associations or correspondences learned from text. In contrast, the Golden Dawn's system often requires extensive study of symbols and correspondences before practical application. The practitioner must memorize the relationships between Hebrew letters, tarot archetypes, planetary influences, and angelic names. While the Golden Dawn employs a wide range of ritual tools, such as wands, swords, chalices, pentacles, and specific robes that are consecrated and used according to complex rules, Bardon minimizes reliance on these objects. Although Bardon acknowledges the utility of certain tools in the practice of magical evocation, he teaches that they are ultimately secondary to the development of the practitioner's mind and spirit. Bardon highlights that the most important tools are one's will, imagination, and concentration. This approach contrasts with the Golden Dawn's ritual heavy methodology, which often requires elaborate ceremonies and the precise use of tools and symbols to access spiritual energies or entities. A unique aspect of Bardon's system is the concept of the Quadripolar Magnet. representing a balanced interplay of the four elements within the practitioner. Bardon highlights achieving this internal balance as a fundamental requirement for any further magical work. Mastery of the elements within oneself allows the practitioner to align their energies with the macrocosmic forces, effectively making them a living representation of universal laws. While the Golden Dawn system also incorporates elements into its practice, it tends to do so within a broader context of ritual magic and ceremonial initiations. The Golden Dawn's focus is more on integrating elemental mastery within a structured system of symbolic and ritual work, rather than highlighting it as a singular goal. Bardon's reinterpretation of Kabbalah, termed as Kabbalah spelled with a Q and a U, diverges significantly from both the traditional Jewish Kabbalah and the Christian Hermetic Kabbalah of the Golden Dawn. Bardon focuses on the practical application of the cosmic language, using the vibrational power of sounds and letters to influence reality directly. This approach contrasts with the Golden Dawn's method, which uses the Kabbalistic tree of life as a framework for understanding spiritual hierarchies and pathways to enlightenment. The Golden Dawn combines Kabbalah with the use of Hebrew letter correspondences, angelic names, planetary symbols, and tarot archetypes, resulting in a multi layered symbolic structure. Bardon, on the other hand, simplifies this by concentrating on the universal aspects of letters themselves, used directly as tools for creation and manifestation rather than for navigating a complex symbolic system. Franz Bardon's magical system is grounded in Hermetic principles, of course, his interpretations of them, which are drawn from the ancient teachings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, a syncretic figure that combines aspects of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. Hermeticism is concerned with understanding the relationship between the microcosm, the individual, and the macrocosm, the universe, through a structured framework of spiritual practices and philosophical study. Bardon's teachings integrate these principles with a strong emphasis on personal development and ethical conduct. Bardon's system is unique in its methodological approach, which prioritizes the development of the practitioner's mental, astral, and physical faculties before delving into more advanced magical practices. His trilogy provides a graded curriculum that is designed to take the practitioner from basic exercises in concentration, visualization, and breath control to complex rituals of evocation and the use of Kabbalistic formulas. Now, let's look at some core principles that we find in Bardon's magical philosophy. So the first one is the universal law of analogy. One of the core tenets of Bardon's system is the Hermetic axiom as above, so below, which posits that the patterns, laws, and processes governing the cosmos, the macrocosm, are mirrored in the individual or microcosm. This concept is foundational to Bardon's teachings, as it implies that through understanding and mastery of oneself, one can also understand and influence the greater universe. Also, Bardon introduces the idea of the quadripolar magnet, which represents the balanced interplay of the four classical elements fire, water, air, and earth within the magician's body and spirit. This concept is key to all magical operations and is meant to harmonize the practitioner's inner and outer worlds, enabling the effective use of magical forces in accordance with universal laws. Bardon also distinguishes between two main branches of magic, theurgy and thaumaturgy. Theurgy or divine magic is aimed at achieving spiritual enlightenment and developing a closer union with the divine, while thaumaturgy, a miracle working magic, involves the use of magical powers and for practical, often material ends. Bardon's system is heavily weighed towards theurgy. So it highlights that the ultimate goal of magic should be spiritual growth and service to the divine rather than personal gain. Let's look now at some key texts that Bardon has written. So, Initiation into Hermetics was published in 1956 and is considered the cornerstone of Franz Bardon's work and is often viewed as the most comprehensive manual on magical training available in Western esotericism. The book is divided into two parts, theory and practice. The theory section outlines Bardon's Hermetic philosophy, covering the essential principles of the four elements: fire, water, air, and earth, the concept of polarity, positive and negative forces, and the structure of the universe and human existence. Bardon explains that the universe consists of multiple planes of existence, from the physical to the mental and astral, all interconnected and governed by universal laws. He stresses that understanding these principles is crucial for anyone aspiring to engage in magical practice. And as for the practice, this is a section that presents a structured program of exercises designed to develop the practitioner's faculties systematically. This program is divided into 10 steps, each building upon the last. The step one focuses on concentration, exercises, breath control, and the purification of thoughts. Practitioners learn to control their minds and emotions to prepare for deeper spiritual work. Then the subsequent steps gradually introduce more advanced techniques, such as the development of the astral senses, clairvoyance, and clairaudience, mastery over the elements within the practitioner's body, and the control of the mind's creative faculties. The exercises in initiation into Hermetics are meant to be practiced rigorously and consistently, with Bardon cautioning that progress depends on the practitioner's dedication and ethical integrity. So, this is a text that highlights the importance of balancing mental, astral, and physical training to achieve holistic development. Now, if you want to know more about this book specifically, I would highly recommend that you join my Magus lecture on the topic, because we're going to have one this month, in fact, in a week. So, feel free to sign up to my Patreon as a Magus or higher tier. We have every month a lecture, so we have monthly lectures every month. And even if you cannot make it to the live session, you can still watch the recording. And in fact, even if you join now as a Magus or higher tier, you will get access to an archive of over 63, I think we are at, over 63 lectures. So even if you are watching this after the session has happened, please still consider joining, because you will still have access to the lecture. So hope you sign up. It's just £15 a month, and gives you access to monthly lectures with me and an amazing community. Let's go back to our lecture. So now let's cover another of his important books, The Practice of Magical Evocation. And this delves deeper into the practical aspects of magic, specifically focusing on the evocation of spiritual entities. Bardon defines evocation as the process by which a magician summons and communicates with spiritual beings from different planes of existence, such as elementals, planetary spirits, and archangels. The text also provides detailed descriptions of various spiritual hierarchies, categorizing beings based on their elemental nature, planetary associations, and functions within the cosmic order. Bardon explains that understanding the characteristics and roles of these beings is essential for safe and effective communication. Bardon also outlines the creation, consecration, and use of various magical tools, such as the wand, magical mirror, circle, and triangle, all of which serve specific purposes in the evocation process, really. Each tool must be prepared according to strict ritualistic guidelines to align with the practitioner's will and the elemental forces involved. Throughout the text, Bardon highlights that the magician must approach evocation with a pure heart, free from selfish intent or malice. He cautions that those who seek power for personal gain or to harm others will inevitably face spiritual consequences. Now, published in 1957, The Key to the True Quabbalah presents Bardon's liberal interpretation of the mystical tradition of the Kabbalah. And this is his own version, and it's completely different from the traditional Jewish mysticism and theology. Bardon's approach is practical and universal, and presents the following traits. So, first, he introduces the concept of the cosmic language, a universal mode of expression by which divine creation manifests. According to Bardon, each letter has a unique vibratory quality and spiritual significance that, when correctly combined, can influence both the microcosm, the individual, and the macrocosm, the universe. The text also includes exercises for mastering the Kabbalistic word, a key practice for focusing sound and vibration to bring about spiritual and material effects. This involves understanding the mystical properties of letters and learning to pronounce them with the correct vibrational intent to achieve desired outcomes. Bardon stresses that the study of Kabbalah is not merely an intellectual pursuit, but a practical tool for the theurgist, one who seeks to invoke the divine will and power to transform themselves and their surroundings. The correct application of Kabbalistic techniques allows the practitioner to align with divine creative forces, making them a conscious co-creator within the cosmos. Franz Bardon's system is notable for its progressive step-by-step approach, where practitioners are expected to master each level of development before advancing to the next. This incremental method ensures that the practitioner builds a strong foundation in the essential skills required for more advanced magical practices. Bardon's exercises are designed to cultivate three key aspects of the practitioner: physical, astral, and mental faculties, which together contribute to holistic spiritual growth. The initial steps of Bardon's system focus on gaining mastery over the physical body. This includes exercises like breath control, dietary regulations, and practices that build stamina and strengthen the body's ability to channel and retain energy. Breath control, or pranayama, is especially crucial as it helps to balance the body's vital energies and prepares the practitioner for more intensive spiritual exercises. Bardon highlights that control over one's physical form is fundamental, as the body must be a fit vessel for the spiritual forces one seeks to harness. Astral development in Bardon's system revolves around mastery one's emotions, desires, and the subconscious mind. This phase includes exercises in introspection, which encourage practitioners to identify and transform their negative traits, cultivating virtues like patience, courage, and compassion. Exercises in visualization and imagination are also employed to develop the astral senses, such as clairvoyance and clairaudience, essential for interacting with non physical planes of existence. At the core of Bardon's practice is mental development, which involves training the mind to achieve a state of complete concentration, focus, and control over thoughts. Bardon introduces several techniques for concentration and meditation, such as focusing on a single thought or idea without distraction. The goal is to attain a state of mental clarity and strength, enabling the practitioner to project their will and intentions with unwavering force. Bardon also stresses the importance of self observation and self analysis to understand one's mental patterns, thus gaining mastery over both conscious and subconscious aspects of the mind. A unique feature of Bardon's system is the seamless integration of theoretical knowledge with practical exercises. Bardon insists that theory alone is insufficient for spiritual development. It must be complemented by rigorous practice. He argues that magical understanding comes not merely from reading or intellectual study, but from direct experience achieved through disciplined practice. Bardon's system offers a syncretic approach, blending Eastern concepts such as meditation and breath control with Western esoteric traditions, like ceremonial magic and Kabbalistic influences. This integration allows practitioners to gain a self contained understanding of both inner and outer magical work, making Bardon's teachings relevant and adaptable to various spiritual paths. Now, as for the unique aspects in Bardon's system, one of the defining features of Franz Bardon's system of magic is its strong focus on self mastery rather than the acquisition of external powers. Unlike many other esoteric traditions of his time, of course, and up until this time, where the emphasis may be on manipulating external forces or spirits to achieve personal ends, Bardon's teachings place the highest importance on the practitioner's inner development and spiritual evolution. Bardon argues that true magical power arises from the alignment of the practitioner's will with the divine will, achieved through a disciplined approach to cultivating moral integrity, spiritual maturity, and self awareness. Bardon's approach to magic is therefore deeply transformative, aiming for a comprehensive mastery of body, mind, and spirit. This self mastery is not merely a prerequisite for the safe practice of magic, but is seen as the ultimate goal of all magical practice. As Bardon states, the greatest magic lies in becoming a perfect instrument of divine providence. where one's own will is indistinguishable from the will of God. By focusing on this internal development, Bardon's system seeks to produce magicians who are not only powerful but also ethically and spiritually responsible. Bardon's system is also distinguished by its minimal reliance on elaborate rituals and external paraphernalia. While he acknowledges the use of certain magical tools, such as wands, mirrors, and circles, in the practice of magical evocation, Bardon insists that these are only aids to help focus the practitioner's will and should not become crutches. He argues that the true source of magical power lies within the practitioner and that tools and rituals are ultimately secondary to the strength of the mind, will, and spirit. These contrast with many Western magical traditions, particularly those influenced by the Golden Dawn or Aleister Crowley's teachings, which often involve complex rituals, elaborate symbols, and detailed ceremonial procedures. Bardon criticizes such an approach, suggesting that it can lead to a dependency on external objects and distract from the essential work of inner development. Instead, his system promotes simplicity, adaptability, and direct engagement with spiritual forces through personal strength and virtue. Another element of Bardon's system is the integration of multiple esoteric traditions into his own coherent framework. While rooted in Hermetic principles, Bardon's teachings also incorporate elements from his interpretation of Kabbalah, alchemy, yoga, and other spiritual paths. For example, his emphasis on breath control, meditation, and energy work reflects influences from Eastern spiritual practices, such as Kundalini yoga and pranayama, while his use of elemental magic and theurgy draws heavily from Western traditions. This holistic approach allows Bardon's system to be adaptable to practitioners of different backgrounds and beliefs. By merging various traditions, Bardon tries to offer a universalist approach to magic that highlights the underlying unity of all spiritual paths. This is an attempt that many have done ever since. But as Bardon notes, the true magician understands that all religious and esoteric traditions are different expressions of the same universal truths. Does it sound like perennialism? So clearly, this perennialist perspective has made his works appealing to a wide audience, from those new to magic to advanced practitioners who are looking for a deeper synthesis of their spiritual practices. But the queen of perennialism, at least in the way that it's been understood and it's been understood since the 20th century and is understood now, is of course Blavatsky. I mean, we have perennialism from before, of course. It's not the first time in history that we have it with Blavatsky, but her specific conceptualization, I think, is one that is particularly relevant to the traditions that have come afterwards. And these include Franz Bardon's tradition. Now, let's go on to some criticisms and challenges that Bardon's system presents. So the first is that Bardon's system, while self-contained and respected and useful to many, is also known for its rigor and demands on the practitioner. The exercises he prescribes require a high level of dedication, discipline, and patience, and the progression through the stages is deliberately slow to ensure that the practitioner thoroughly masters each step before moving on. This can deter many seekers who may be looking for quicker, more immediately gratifying results. Bardon emphasizes that magical attainment is not a matter of shortcuts or easy techniques, but involves a profound transformation of the entire self, which takes time and sustained effort. A significant challenge in Bardon's system is the potential misinterpretation of the traditions on which his system and his teachings are based, given his liberal reinterpretations of various esoteric traditions. Bardon frequently presents his own creative system as the true or definitive version of Hermeticism, Kabbalah, and other traditions, which can lead to confusion and the spread of misinformation among practitioners. This approach may result in practitioners mistaking Bardon's reimagined concepts for the authentic teachings of these traditions, thereby obscuring the original meanings and context of the traditions he draws upon. The esoteric nature of some of Bardon's concepts, especially in the Key to the True Quabbalah, has compounded this confusion. Practitioners who lack a deep understanding of the underlying principles of these traditions may find themselves misled by Bardon's interpretation. Critics argue that his works can be overly complex or inaccessible without a knowledgeable teacher to clarify the distinctions between Bardon's system and the historical traditions he references. However, Bardon himself suggests that a true spiritual guide will appear to the dedicated student when the time is right, implying that guidance will come naturally to those who are sincerely committed to the path. That said, I also want to highlight the fact that even though Bardon's interpretations of the different traditions that he mentions is clearly his own interpretation and not really what these traditions were originally about, that doesn't necessarily invalidate his system. And this doesn't just apply to Bardon's magical system, but to any magical system and to any tradition, really. Whether something is made up or created by a specific individual or a historicist or a group of people, which we could argue all religions at some point have been made up. But whether when they take from previous traditions, they reflect accurately the tradition they are taking from or not, I don't think that that reflects on the validity of the practice for the esoteric practitioner, because that really is is a religious practice, is a spiritual practice, and nobody other than the practitioner can really assess whether it is something that works for them and is meaningful for them. However, I just think that it is very important to be honest about these kind of things. So when there is a claim of historical authenticity, that's when I start having a problem. When there aren't claims of historical authenticity and practitioners are honest about saying, I've drawn some inspiration from this tradition and I have re-elaborated it in my own way because I personally think that it's gonna work well for magic, it's gonna work well for others, then I don't see any problem with that. I only start to see a problem with this kind of approach when there is the dishonest claim that that is historically accurate. So that is the only point at which, as a scholar, I start to have a problem with it. But otherwise, that doesn't invalidate the system of magic for the practitioner, of course, because that is something that only the practitioner can decide for themselves, and it's something that is highly individual, as it should be. Another potential risk that has been raised is that Bardon's teachings could be used for selfish or unethical purposes, contrary to his teachings. His system highlights personal integrity and alignment with the natural harmony and divine will. A warning that those who misuse magic for personal gain or to harm others will face serious spiritual and karmic consequences. This requires a high level of moral discipline and a genuine commitment to spiritual growth, which not all practitioners may be prepared to uphold. Consequently, without a clear understanding of both Bardon's unique system and the traditional practices he reinterprets, there is a danger that practitioners might misunderstand or distort his teachings, leading to unintended or potentially harmful outcomes. Franz Bardon's teachings have continued to exert a profound influence on modern practitioners of Western occult traditions. His emphasis on a disciplined, step by step approach to magical training and spiritual development has been useful and helpful to many in Western Esotericism. Today, Bardon's trilogy, Initiation into Hermetics, The Practice of Magical Evocation, and The Key to the True Quabbalah, remain an interesting reading for anyone pursuing a well rounded understanding of 20th century Western Esotericism. Now, this is my bibliography. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think about Franz Bardon's magical system, whether there's anything that particularly sparked your interest or that you want to say in addition to what I said. And if you watched until this point, leave me a circle emoji. I know that sometimes you guys struggle with finding the emojis that I ask for, and I always have fun to look at how you resolve the problem. Like sometimes I can see that some of you just type circle, for instance, if you cannot find a circle, which I think it's funny and still appreciated. So yeah, just let me know if you watched until this point by using the circle emoji or just writing circle, I suppose. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And please Remember that this project of delivering free academic knowledge based on peer-reviewed scholarship, or in this case, primary sources, primarily, there are also secondary sources, of course, but not specifically on Franz Bardon, is only possible thanks to your support. So if you have the means and want to support my work, I would really, really appreciate it if you consider supporting me on Patreon, Ko-fi, PayPal, super thanking me in the comments, checking out my services at drangelapuca.com. You can have private lectures with me, one-to-one tutoring sessions. You can also buy my courses, or even 1 or 2 or 3 lectures in my courses. So check out my website. It would be appreciated. And if you like this video, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, activate the notification bell so that you will always be notified when I upload a new video, and share this video around, because it's only thanks to you that this project and this symposium is going to grow, and we definitely want it to grow, right? So thank you all so much for being here, and I hope that you stay tuned for all the academic fun.